Dear principals and teachers, thank you very much for your interest in this project, which is called Tracking Students' Learning Through Comprehensive Enhancement of Assessment Literacy. As you can hear, the name of it is a bit long. We've been calling it CEAL, spelled C-E-A-L, stands for Comprehensive Enhancement of Assessment Literacy. I am Becky Zheng, the coordinator of this project. First of all, let me talk about the project objectives. CEAL endeavours to equip teachers, not just English teachers, but the entire teaching staff of each participating school with knowledge, skills and attitudes in employing effective assessment practices to inform their instruction. We strengthen the capacity of school leaders, including the curriculum and instructional leaders, to lead assessment-informed improvement actions. Abided by the decision of the EDB, except for the workshops, intensive collaboration, including lesson co-planning and implementation, is restricted to the English teachers and their students of only Key Stages 2 and 3, which refer to the upper primary and lower secondary levels. I will walk you through the rest of the objectives using the following slides and some school cases. This chart will give you a clearer picture about how CEAL works and how it can bring positive impact at the three core levels, which are the classroom level, the curriculum level, and the school level. For the classroom level, CEAL enhances teachers' professional capacity to use assessment in day-to-day teaching practices. For example, when working with this school, we found that the students were particularly weak at using tenses, especially for those irregular verbs. We planned the learning and assessment activities with the teachers to encourage assessment for learning. We recorded our work very carefully. We put down the learning objectives we wanted to achieve, the knowledge and skills the students needed to acquire, making sure the instruction fulfilled the intended curriculum. We wrote up not only the teaching steps, but also the expected learning behavior. Here, you can see, instead of using a verb table in which isolated words are listed, we especially wrote rap lyrics to help students memorize the irregular verbs so that they learn the form, the meaning, and the pronunciation of verbs all at the same time. The students did find learning and memorizing the verbs easier and more fun. We also designed learning tasks which allowed students to self-assess their learning through game-based assessment tools. We let students revise and recycle newly learned knowledge of irregular verbs unconsciously. We understood that pen and paper quizzes were still needed. We designed a verb table quiz that allowed students to take control over the learning according to their will and ability. Teachers guided them to select their quizzes and evaluate their learning outcome. To implement assessment as learning, we planned lessons to empower students to engage themselves in assessment practices as far as possible. We helped teachers to revise the assessment tools. For example, we guided teachers to rethink the purpose of using a writing checklist like this. They thought about how students usually completed these worksheets, whether the quality of students' writing benefited from it. We made good use of the assessment tools we collected from the teachers and guided them to think about why changes were needed and how changes could be made. For example, for this school, we worked out two policies. For more dependent learners, teachers guided students to self-assess their writing through teacher-led instructions. The teacher read out each instruction and provided the students with sufficient time and skill to tackle one key item at a time. By doing so, the teacher could see students practicing editing rather than simply ticking those boxes on the checklist. For more independent students, they could go through the checklist and respond to it by highlighting the target language items to check if they were used appropriately. The students were given the opportunity to count the newly learned words applied to their writing or to highlight the favorite sentences to show off their effort. The design is a much more communicative one. As you can see, we have been working with the English teachers to strengthen the alignment between the intended curriculum and classroom instruction. We make every effort to increase the opportunities for the teachers to communicate the success criteria to their students, so that the students are encouraged to engage themselves in monitoring and regulating their learning. Now, let's move on to the curriculum level. We run workshops that allow the teachers to rethink the relationships between learning and assessment and the interface between internal assessment and external assessment. We guide them to see how they can turn summative assessments into formative use. The more knowledge the teachers have in these aspects, the higher the quality of curriculum construction or revision could be done. During the workshops, we invited the teachers to look at the public exam results of 2 consecutive years. We identified the weaknesses of the students together. Then we focused on a few problem areas that the teachers wanted their students to brush up. We then thought about the classroom activities that help to teach and assess those areas more effectively. For example, in this school, students had difficulties interpreting commentators' view. Yet, from the data, we could see that the students were unable to do well. But what's next? We did guide our teachers to reflect on what they could do. For example, we suggested providing the students with an answer framework and equipping them with the skills they must acquire. We think aloud how the right answers could be obtained and write up the procedures students may follow when they tackle the questions. We let the teachers know that we could model all these skills in the classroom, making modeling part of the instruction. Therefore, we did guide our teachers to reflect and demonstrate to them how they could turn summative assessments into formative use, which means how to make instructional improvement based on data-driven decisions. Here we come to making impact on the departmental level. During the collaboration, the teachers and curriculum leaders were empowered to build routines and policies conducive to the lesson and assessment planning, implementation, and development. We conduct workshops to brush up teachers' knowledge of designing internal assessment tools. Let them see questions written not just by themselves, but also teachers of the other schools. We showed them what assessment literate teachers would do to strengthen the alignment among learning, teaching, and assessment, how they evaluate the usefulness of a test, and how they recall and utilize students' performance. Such knowledge and skills would surely guide the teachers to reflect and make changes to department policies, systems, and even culture in designing, implementing, and evaluating assessment measures. This slide shows you the workflow of the project, which is divided into 5 stages. In stage 1, the initiation stage, which took place between August and September, we will introduce the project aims and what classroom assessment is to the entire teaching staff. During this period, our colleagues will be reading the data submitted to us by the English department. In stage 2, the planning stage, another workshop will be conducted with the English teachers to report on our findings of needs analysis and offer suggestions on areas for improvement. We will then move on to stage 3, the cycle of implementation. We will work closely with English teachers to review and revise assessment tools. We will also be running networking activities so that fellow project schools could gather to learn from one another. Moreover, another workshop on interpreting assessment results and exploring instructional improvement actions will be held for the curriculum leaders of all the subjects. In stage 4, we will share good practices and output within school. In stage 5, the final stage, we share our collaboration experience in the end-of-year territory-wide examination, which is opened to all the schools in Hong Kong. This picture shows you the territory-wide examination we held last year, which was a very happy occasion to celebrate the success we achieved. So far, we have received very good comments on the workshops we conducted for this project. Here shows you the list of our CEAL schools. See if you have any friends working in these schools. You can get some first-hand information about the project from them. For more information, please feel free to contact our project assistant, Ms. Jessica Liu.